Hello, everyone. We're back. It's been only 3 months. Bear with me. We are back with episode 46, and we have Marie Hotel Seville here as I as I rehearsed before we went live. Thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately, Elisa couldn't make it today, so I'll just be. Yeah, it might go sideways, so I apologize beforehand. Elisa is not here to keep me in check. So yeah, Marie, just a few words, something you want to say about yourself and your work, and you are the CEO of Fair Patterns. It's a very, very interesting line of work that you guys are doing. So, but yeah, I'm gonna just it also
Thanks.
you.
Thanks a lot, Elena. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for the invitation. So, yes, I'm the co founder and CEO of Fair Patterns, which we like to call the B2B antivirus for humans. As a teaser. And what it does, it's basically a multimodal AI that scans sites, apps, and social media to find and fix any digital violation, digital manipulation. So, obviously, dark patterns, but way beyond dark patterns. Consent violations, predatory pricing, abusive, all sorts of abusive things online. And yeah, it's an extremely interesting line of work, as you said, Elena, where we're always learning and growing, and that's really what I love about it.
How how did it come about? How did it all start?
Sure.
Can you just
Yeah.
share a little bit of how did you end up doing this line of work? I mean, obviously, it's very important given today's landscape.
Yes. I think it has to do with the fact that I'm originally a lawyer. So I believe in that thing which is called the rule of law, which means that no, people can't do just anything as they want, at least in a democracy, at least until now. And so, yeah, I used to be a private practice lawyer for 10 years, and then I moved in-house. I was also a general counsel for a number of years covering EMEA, basically. And then I became an entrepreneur, and I did a master's degree in innovation by design as I was launching my first company. We're talking 8 years ago already. And at the time, this is how I learned about online manipulation, online deception, and that concept of dark patterns. That was the first time for me I was, hearing that term, which was actually coined by Harry Brignall in 2012, but I didn't know that at the time. And when the designers explained that it was a short conference I was attending, my first reaction was, okay, so if basically humans are so vulnerable to online manipulation and online deception because of our cognitive biases and the architecture of choice online, basically, and we can come back to that if you want, but if that's the current reality, then how do we create the opposite of a dark pattern, the opposite of manipulation? There has to be an antidote. In other words, I just couldn't, accept the fact that the digital environment was just doomed to be manipulative, deceptive by design. I didn't believe that was right. I still don't. And I asked actually the designer giving the conference, okay, what's the opposite of a dark pattern then? And he was like, don't know. And so it was like, okay, in that case, if it doesn't exist yet, and given the level of online manipulation and deception, it needs to be created. And so that, fast forward to today, basically we did 3 years of R&D specifically on the topic. We went quite deep scientifically. And then we created the concept of fair patterns, which in our view is interfaces that empower users to make their own free and informed choices. So basically, it's regain your agency online. It's regain your freedom online. It's all about the freedom to choose whatever you prefer, Elena, which is going to be completely different from what I might prefer. That's the whole point. In other words, we don't necessarily believe in nudging users towards privacy friendly or consumer friendly options, because everybody's different. Some users have very precise strategies, playing with the system, etc. And we need to respect that. But basically, the point is freedom and autonomy. But to be able to have that freedom of choice, well, the architecture of choice needs to be rewired, because currently it's just steering us in certain directions, and we shouldn't be fooled. Does that make sense? And so, yeah, from the R&D lab, so we did the R&D for 3 years. We created the concept, then we created a library of fair patterns, and then we created a multimodal AI that scans sites and apps and social media, and we're expanding into AI agents, because obviously there are many new
They're there.
possibilities of deception and manipulation with AI in general and AI agents in particular.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't wrapped our heads around AI, basic AI tools, and I mean basic in the sense that it came out like 3 years ago. And let's just dive into AI agents, unleash it all on everyone. Yeah, I mean, where to begin? So the title for this episode is Erosion of Critical Thinking, a bit doomy and gloomy, as everything now these days. Let's talk about critical thinking. And why is it important? In a few sentences, why is it important in today's age?
Well, it's one of the key human abilities. If you can't think by yourself, basically, if you don't have the reflex of checking the sources, double checking information, crossing sources, I mean, even before AI, you are probably getting into trouble sooner or later, but even more so with AI. I think it's one of the most critical conversation we need to have right now. What it means, critical thinking, what it entails, how do we not only protect it, but also enhance it, ideally.
Yeah, and obviously with again all the AI tools, various AI tools being released almost, I don't know, on a monthly basis, weekly basis these days, it's really hard to just to kind of stop and think, how do I approach that? How do I implement that in my life? I'm not talking about work wise, but just how do I interact with those tools? Because obviously there's a lot of good in the use of those tools. At least for me personally, I find a lot of good in there. But I also, as we spoke about it during our prep call, right? So, but me personally, I kind of proactively stop myself sometimes from doing certain things, and I'm being very proactive and cognizant of the fact that, okay, here, in order to avoid like over reliance on this tech, I'm going to do this and this and this, but I really need to be turning that on and on sort of like manually, right? Not everyone can do it, not everyone will be doing this, because A is just, I don't know, too thought intensive, or just people don't have time, and it's easier just to automate everything, delegate everything, and just people a lot of the times I think leave on the impression that it's going to free up so much of my time, But with this time, they just give up, as we already mentioned, the agency, which we are so ready to give up. That's just the fact of that is surprising. And I was talking about that 3 years ago, even like then, and practically nothing changed, unfortunately.
That, there's something that's really important. You said the term automate everything. In behavioral sciences, there's something very, very important to understand, which is the automation bias. So this didn't, it didn't start with AI, absolutely not. The automation bias is simply our tendency, humans' tendency, to over rely on an automated output more than on their own judgment. And so that has always existed ever since, tech, and you might call it progress even, started. So this is not new. And for example, um, long before AI, there were some studies, um, for example, on taxi drivers. Let's take this very, very basic example. Obviously, before GPS, taxi drivers had to learn all of the names of the streets in the city they used to work, etc. Great, which meant that obviously, their memory was more active than for most people, because they had to pass this exam, etc. Some researchers did some brain scans specifically on taxi drivers after GPS, after a couple of years of using GPS, and clearly there was a decrease in their ability to memorize things. It used to be overdeveloped, and it decreased. So that's a super, just super basic example. Once it's automated, we over rely on it, which means we stop or we do less by ourselves, and that diminishes several things. It could be memory, or the speed at which we memorize things, and it could also be critical thinking. So that's the starting point. What's really new with AI, as some researchers have already pointed out, is that we don't just automate one task or a series of tasks. The temptation, at least, is to almost delegate our cognition itself. It's not just partial delegation. It's like, prompting Claude or whatever. I use Claude a lot personally, and I really like it, by the way. Except when Claude offers me to have a coffee. I don't have coffee with algorithm. But anyway, the point is that the difference with GenAI is that, as several scientists pointed out, we could potentially delegate our cognition itself. Like how to, I don't know, we would prompt, write an article about this and that, 3 bullet points, and poof.
Yeah. Who has the time anyway?
And it could be handy, of course. It could be practical, but then how do we benefit from that progress so that, we're more efficient, we're quicker, and maybe we have additional ideas as well, but without losing our ability to, to have our own creativity, which is clearly like a muscle, but also our ability to think by ourselves, to think critically.
Yeah. So the term cognitive offloading, right? You shared the study with me, and I read it, and so that study showed that, not surprisingly, younger people who are, whose brains are developing, 17 to 25, I believe, they are more susceptible to, just giving up their agency, cognition itself, so to speak, to AI, versus people who are much older. It's vice versa. They're benefiting from that technology. It makes them, I don't know, smarter. It makes them work like on their critical thinking, they actually benefit cognitively from that technology versus the younger people. So, is there a way to, are there ways as of today, right, presently, to design something, to build this tech in certain ways that, the onus is not on the users? Okay, you need to be diligent, you need to be proactive, you need to be thinking, you need to be like, there's a laundry list of things that user has to be doing, right, versus the developer. So, is there something, and if there is, what is it?
Of course, well, the most important thing to start with is the future or even progress is not happening to us. We're not like helpless watching things being built and, passively nodding. I mean, this is entirely in our hands. And the critical word is design. How do you create and design those AI agents, AI tools, AI solutions in a way that actually benefits humans and enhances their creativity, critical thinking, etc. So this is really in our hands. And I'm stressing it because what I'm seeing right now is a lot of, oh, but that's the way it's been built, you know? And
Yeah.
and I'd like to take some time to reflect on this. GenAI is relatively new still, like what, 3 years, 4 years, but we've got a brilliant advantage in analyzing in terms of how we assess this technology, because we've already been through what was called at the time digital revolution, whatever it means. But I mean, we can learn from all that. We've got the necessary time frame behind us. The beginning of the internet, and then everything that happened after was attention economy or inattention economy, as it should
As
be
of today, yeah. The
as it should
attention
be
span,
renamed.
attention spans
Um,
haven't been shorter, actually. Yeah.
exactly. And so I think it's really important to just pause for a second, learn from everything that happened previously with the internet, with the digital environment. And I think each of us could actually reflect just for a couple of minutes, wondering, okay, why do I like? What do I enjoy? What is beneficial for me in this digital environment as it was built? What are the things that maybe I don't agree with? What would I change if I could? How could I perhaps benefit more from this digital environment? Maybe I want more agency. Maybe I want less cookie banners. I don't know. I mean, I know the answer for myself. But I think this is really, really important to just take that minimum amount of time and then apply these learnings into creating and building and designing AI tools. So that's my first message.
It's very optimistic. I am all for it, but again, giving the inattention economy and inattention everything, I that sounds like a lot of cognitive and critical thinking work. So how do we make
Walking the
people
talk.
do it? Because as you said, we can learn so much and from everything. Yes, that's 100% true. But have we though? That's I am not under the impression that we have. Yes, there are here and there different islands, lonely islands of people who are like just this ray of light, just talking some things that are to people like me are pretty obvious. Yes, of course we have the agency, of course we need to do this, of course it's my choice how to use the technology. Like, you're not gonna push it on me like these certain ways of how it has to be done, right? At the end of the day, that's what I implement, to choose to implement in my own life. But again, not everyone is like that. The collective mind is, people are herd animals, so to speak. So just this herd mentality is always not how this works. So I don't know. I'm pretty
Yeah.
pessimistic, but please change my mind.
Well, I'm an active optimist, so I hope for the best, and then I do my share in making it happen. I do everything I can in making it happen, and then at least I will have contributed even like a tiny, tiny bit.
Absolutely.
But to your point, Elena, most likely I'm also in my own bubble, thinking we have learned and we can take advantage of that. This being said, we're seeing a number of clients, companies, very much profit driven, obviously, as they should be, coming to us, for example, to design um, uh, legal tech tools in this specific case, that embed a lot of AI in a way that enhances critical thinking. So that makes me hopeful, not because of sheer unrealistic optimism, but because they see a market value, they see ROI, they see a competitive advantage in precisely learning from the past, and then creating the sort of new generation of legal tech tools that actually truly enhance humans in general. Back to your question, how do you do it? So there's no one single one size fits all, obviously, but there are a few key principles. And I guess the starting point is very basic, is triggering system 2, basically. Shall I briefly explain system 1 and system 2 for the audience?
Absolutely. You can explain it to me as well. Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm not a behavioral science expert, but I've read Kahneman, who's obviously a Nobel Prize in economy, but also the author of Thinking Fast and Slow. It was back in the 70s, so this is really established literature. And basically what Kahneman evidenced is that the human brain works in two main ways: system 1 and system 2. System 1 is very convenient. It's fast. It doesn't consume a lot of energy. And it enables us to not exactly make decisions, but let's say to act quickly without dedicating too many resources. And to do so, we rely on sort of mental shortcuts, we could call it that way, that are actually cognitive biases. And so it has its advantages, because we can be again quicker, and in a way it's efficient. But we have to understand that when we use system 1, we don't make conscious choices. It's not like let me think about pros, cons, etc. It's not like that. And then that system 1 is obviously opposed to system 2, which is slower, but it's more deliberate. It also consumes more energy. So the brain tries to avoid that by default, to be able to have that energy reserve.
Conserve energy.
Save energy in case there's an imminent threat and we need to fight or flight. So that's the famous fight or flight response. So by default, the human brain will tend to always, default to system 1 ideally. But sometimes to solve a math problem, or, when it's necessary to dedicate more resources, then we leverage system 2. Obviously, it's impossible to use system 2 all the time. We would all probably explode.
System overload.
But it's this combination of systems, and typically to be able to think critically, to double check sources, to ask questions that are not on the list, typically see the sort of loopholes, think of blind sides, blind angles. We need system 2. So that's the first thing. And actually, in behavioral sciences, and that's part of what we research in our R&D lab, there are ways to trigger the use of system 2. So it could be first, I mean, there are a number of ways, but basically the brain needs a signal that something is sufficiently important to dedicate the additional resources implied by system 2. So sufficiently important, but also sufficiently meaningful. For example, there was a very interesting study, I think it was done by Berkeley long time ago, over 10 years ago, on, the license, the online license terms, which were usually written in very fine print, tons of legalese, fairly authoritative language. Researchers identified that this type of language, it's like a wall of jargon, fairly authoritative. Well, it triggers system 1. Why? Because the brain is like, why should I bother? I mean, this is not worth my precious resources that I need to save in case of an imminent danger. So, on the contrary, if you provide meaningful information, something that's sufficiently important that will perhaps resonate with the user's values, something that has a purpose, then that could be a trigger. Then, of course, to trigger system 2, it has to be worth it, basically, for the brain to, again, dedicate those resources. So another thing is to actually provide some means of actions. In other words, back to our online licensing terms example. In any event, as a user that even if you took the time and the pain to read, if you want to use the bloody tool, you have to press accept, because there's this asymmetry of power, and it's not like you're going to negotiate with Microsoft or anyone. So in any event, it's not worth it. So back to our, interventions. Well, you need to create action buttons where it's not only meaningful, it's not only important, but you can do something about it. There's an action that's possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sort of.
No. I lost you for like 2 seconds, but it still makes sense.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Something's wrong with my connection.
Okay.
Anyway, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it was designed that way, right? It's specifically designed like this small little tiny font, those, the legalese and everything on the song. Just kind of don't be bothered with that. Just click accept and move on with your day, and you can spend another 2 hours in watching reels on Instagram or anything of that sort. So
yeah, so to change that, beyond the starting point which I just explained, you can also go to more sophisticated interventions that could be called metacognitive skills. This is, by the way, a term, metacognition, that I learned recently thanks to the Basel Research Initiative. So I want to credit them for that.
It's a fancy term. Can you please elaborate? It's very fancy.
So again, it's not my research, and I shouldn't take the credit for that. But the person at Basel Research Initiative is indeed an expert in behavioral sciences, Mark Dean, and he explained to us that metacognition is basically the process of thinking about thinking. So you don't just think, you take a step back and you wonder, what's the process of you thinking? What's your starting point? How do you do it? And then you reflect afterwards. And so the process is usually, for metacognition to happen, you need to decide in advance, okay, what's my intention, for example? So there's like a short preliminary task, then the thinking process happen, and then you sort of debrief with yourself. Again, I'm not the best person to explain this at all, but what's interesting is when it translates into design interventions, and this is exactly what we do. So typically, very practically, it's totally possible in a legal tech tool and it can be filled with AI. There can be a first question where the design of the tool invites the user to formulate their own hypothesis first, and then maybe they can prompt the tool. It's as simple as that, actually.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting. Then, of course, there could be so that's called a pre-output reflection. Then there could be something like a confidence assessment. So the tool could be designed in such a way that it asks users to rate their own confidence in AI recommendation before accepting. And again, it's a fairly simple intervention, but it's very powerful because immediately, you take that step back
Yeah.
that we're talking about. It could be also alternative generation. So, for example, the tool itself could require users to generate at least one alternative solution to the one provided by AI. Just a side comment. When I started using Claude, maybe, I don't know, 18 months ago, something like that, I really liked using it as a sort of sparring partner.
Mhm.
I would, draft my own stuff, and then I would challenge Claude to find all the blind spots, everything I had not thought about, what could backfire, something like,
Mhm.
literally a sparring partner.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's completely possible to build the tools in a way that prompts users to do so. Just let me clarify one thing, because I can already see your audience thinking, "Oh my God, this is gonna be a pain," and the whole benefit of quick and easy and simple.
That was actually gonna be my next comment. It's like, but anyone
Wait a
else would be,
second,
I'll just use something else. It's just you guys have fun. I'll
exactly, because you just ruined it.
yes, yes.
No, I
But
can.
go on.
I can totally accept that. And basically, what's very important to mention right now is that um, you need to adapt the level of interventions to prompt critical thinking to the importance of double checking at various steps of using the tool. So typically, for a very important decision, let's say, I don't know, a large contract above a certain threshold, so not an NDA typically, but you define the stakes that are sufficiently important, and for those very important decisions, then there's a level of intervention where you want proper critical thinking to be probably at its best, and then you can phase it down in a way, depending on how important it is to double check or to exercise creativity or to think out of the AI box. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. It's just who triggers that, heightened level of intervention? Is that the AI system itself kind of just, okay, so the prompt was analyze this contract, or I don't know, the terms, and then it automatically triggers this, code red sort of interventions. Okay, critical thinking 100% versus the person who is doing the prompting. They're like, okay, you need to make me, think critically at this point, like so much. How does it, or the system itself can, I mean, that's not the cases of today, not at least I'm aware, but the system itself adapts and just kind of regulates that accordingly.
So at this point in time in our work, we believe that this rating of strategic importance, let's call it this way, should be a human decision. And that's also what our clients ask. They don't want this particular bit to be delegated to AI.
Agency.
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 Um, but typically, once you've established what's particularly important for lawyers to check in an automated contract negotiation, for example, then you can automate the interventions, depending on these levels. So humans first, deciding, and I think this is a very powerful agency feature. Think about that, deciding what you want to delegate to AI and what you also want, to keep for yourself, typically. That's also very important, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I wish more people had the time to just, as you said, not even the time. It's not always about the time. It's about the effort you want to put in in the thinking that you're doing, so to speak. It's about the, okay, I'm just not going to bother with this. I'll just do it the way it is. It's fine. A lot of people are just not wired to think critically or to reflect, and that's a fact. Like, it's a skill that needs to be, like, you need to be, working on that. Not a lot of people are reflective, like, okay, I'm feeling sad, why am I feeling sad? Oh, I did that, I did this, why like, there are not a lot of people who do this.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But there might be, sort of a brutal wake-up call. I'm sure you've seen the Deloitte scandals because it was all over the news.
Yeah.
And
it was not once, I believe it was several times.
No, it was several times. And to be fair, I mean, Deloitte hit the news, but I'm pretty sure that any other, consultant.
Yeah, they were just the ones who got caught.
Exactly. They were the ones who got caught, but I would be surprised if the other big four didn't do exactly the same. This is where, critical thinking is all about human relevance. I mean, if companies go to these consultancy firms, super, large and supposedly reputable, I think the first report that was nailed was an Australian report, and I think it was for
yeah. I believe it was the government of Australia.
Australian dollars. So, not a small price anyway. Well, I mean, it's the entire business model that is sort of at stake, right? Because if for some reason, if they don't check, if they don't, and that's not even critical thinking, by the way, let me clarify. Double checking AI output is not critical thinking.
That's just common sense.
Just common sense and just sanity. It's not even critical thinking. So we're like level 0, right?
But again, it might be just in our bubble, sadly. But
really? Oh no, no, I can't accept that. No, professional diligence. Oh, come on.
A lot of
I'm gonna get depressed.
A lot of recent cases with attorney filings, at least in the US, there were a couple of other cases internationally as well. They're just filing, with fake citations of cases and decisions, and nobody checks anything. So, yeah, don't get depressed, but it's there.
No, I never get depressed. This is the good thing about me. I get anxiety, but I don't get depressed.
We still have 18 minutes until the end. Just trust me. Trust the process. And we still haven't touched upon AI companions' dark patterns, which we will.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Talk about depressed, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, let's jump right in. Why not? I mean, let's go all in. AI companions, dark patterns. Just explain it to to just a regular person outside of any bubbles. What's that all about? Is this
sure?
Why is it important?
Why is it important? Well, so-called AI companions, which is, by the way, a very deceptive name, because a machine is never going to be a companion to anyone. But anyway, that's the market denomination. So AI companions, companies like Replica, Character AI, they have dozens of millions of users around the world. So adoption is already quite fast and widespread. What it is, just before jumping to the problem, so it's basically a GenAI system that you can configure. By the way, I actually downloaded Replica to see it for myself. And it's extremely interesting. You can pick the sort of shape, I'm not sure how to call it, that you want your, again, quote unquote, AI companion to look like. So it could be female, male, non-binary, with a certain style, short hair, long hair, just that is very, very confusing. At least it was for me. But anyway, the whole point is that for people who want that, you can have that, those conversations with the sort of GenAI agent that you configured. So you can decide whether it's a business coach, whether it's a friend, again, quote unquote. And obviously you decide the types of conversations you want to have with them. So that's basically what it is. Now, some researchers back in October 2025 have tested all these AI companions, so Replica, Character AI, and they've identified that at very critical touch points of the conversations between the GenAI tool and users, those GenAI tools were displaying a particularly high number of dark patterns. So typically, they identified that when users were trying to put an end to the conversation, because actually, incidentally, real life is out there.
Yeah, I have to do some real stuff, right?
Yeah. Then the tool would say, "Oh, don't leave me just now. Oh, what if we talked about this? Or I'm going to be sad if you leave now." An
Also
algorithm
works.
be sad? I don't think so. And so this piece of research is really, really enlightening, because dark patterns are bad enough when it manipulates you to, I don't know, pay a pair of sneakers, higher than what you would have done, or buy more, share more personal data. That's bad enough. It's severe enough. But when those obviously manipulative tactics, which are very well documented in science, are used precisely to extend the length of the conversations, probably because at the back end there are some ROIs, some KPIs about the length of conversations that translate into
Absolutely.
more money.
They need to keep you engaged longer.
Exactly. Then the potential for harm and the actual harms to users is absolutely huge. And so I think that's how we got in touch, Elena. I think I did a post on this, and that's how we
Yeah.
met, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And then I messaged you because, I mean, how
Yeah.
could I not?
And I think this should be, again, a wake-up call. As much as I love tech, and progress, every single of us should be able to decide what benefits they want to reap out from tech, including Gen AI, and when it clearly crosses the line. And that shouldn't be just an individual decision, by the way. But typically, we wouldn't allow car manufacturers to put on the market a car that, I don't know, burns your brain when if you happen to I don't know, brake too strongly or whatever, that wouldn't pass the safety test and it wouldn't be put on the market. Why on earth are we allowing that kind of products on the market? To be perfectly fair, we're not in the EU, because what I just described is clearly an AI dark pattern. It's clearly against Article 5 of the AI Act, and it's clearly prohibited here. But in the rest of the world, obviously, AI regulations are still nascent vaguely, and not not in the US, and so it's almost left to individual users to decide whether it's safe or not, which really shouldn't be a burden on their shoulders. So this should really think twice.
Absolutely. But talking about the manipulative techniques, right? If the person is put in the situation, not put in the situation, the person is on character AI and is talking to a companion, and the emotional investment at this point of the person, right? It all depends on how emotional and how vulnerable the conversation is, right? Because a lot of people are using AI tools for, just, or some use it for therapy or just talking to them, getting some advice on their relationship. Some are just having AI girlfriends and they don't mind they are AI girlfriends. And as you said, uh, the goal of fair parents is just to keep people informed, give them the opportunity to have this informed
To
decision.
decide. Exactly.
Absolutely. But at a time like, for example, character AI or replica users, right? When you're so vested, is there even a chance for the person to just stop and think or make any type of critical thinking or decisions for that matter? Is it good for me? Is it, no, that makes me feel good in the moment. You get this dopamine, like just shot every single time or whatever it is for you. And kind of that's it, right? And, as far as the industry, whatever makes money doesn't really matter, unfortunately. So,
Well, that's why typically those companies, so replica character AI, probably won't design their products in a different way, for sure. That's not their business model
that was
currently.
that was the goal. So, yeah.
But what we're saying is that it's not doomed to be this way.
It can be designed a different way. It doesn't
Can
have to be
exactly. So
manipulative by design. Yeah.
you can decide that you want an AI companion, and that AI companion is not going to manipulate you. And you can be reminded, for example, a very simple design intervention is that you can be reminded at regular intervals that, this is a technology, this is how it works. And that's also a very interesting learning. What if, let's play a game. And let's see what the audience thinks. What if we had a very small intervention on not even AI companion, on Claude or GPT, saying, do you remember that the way LLMs work is just, statistical models that predict the next word? Interesting, right? And, would it change? Would it change the way we interact with them? I mean, that should be a scientific experiment. I'm just thinking right now, uh, because it's not just about, it's not just chit chat. This should be measured scientifically. Like, pre-information, how do users behave? How do they use a number of AI agents for a number of things, professionally, personally? And post information, does that change their behavior? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I
I'm
mean, we
digressing.
no. It's a really good, it's a good one, and I'm pretty sure, like long term, it would be a nice study to have. I would love to see the results personally. I mean, we still have some time because as of today, we don't have a lot of data when it comes to interactions with chatbots in the wild, apart from some studies that Anthropic is giving us, and I believe there was something OpenAI released.
Yes. OpenAI released their
It has
economic
some
study.
stats. So yeah, when it comes
And
to.
that was very interesting, by the way. The main use of GPT, when they released the study that was in September of last year, the main
Yeah.
use was personal, not professional.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
And
give me a recipe for tonight, how to fix the plumbing. And that,
yeah,
why not?
to me it screams, I don't know, people are lonely. That's just that would be kind of just, you need to talk to someone, and the first thing, it's always there, it's always accessible, so you're just talking and give, I mean, whatever makes you, happy. A lot of people get some positive, feedback and advice. It makes them feel better. So as long as it, not illegal and it makes you feel better, I'm all for it, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Maybe, the solution could be that we, uh, it, convince, no, we, I'm just saying, like me and you, right? We convince all the corporations out there. You just like, they need to see light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, um, in the fact that these tools, these AI models, they can be non-manipulative and still bring ROI, right? And they
Of
still
course.
can make you money. But the thing is for them to see that, because kind of they've always been operating in one certain way, and then it kind of, things have always been this way. AI only exacerbated pretty much everything, exposed it even more. But yeah, it's just, you can only do so much in your own capacity. And as I always say, that whatever contribution that I can do personally and professionally around me in my kind of bubble, I can only expand that bubble, and just hopefully that will include some more people, and that will make people actually think about things they haven't really thought about. And that's your work as well. And that's basically what we can do. Just try to make this impact, hopefully get the conversation going. So
And provide verifiable data. Because, conversations are great. I love it. But, verifiable data that can then translate into ROI, KPIs, etc. That's, I think, super, super important. That's why we're teaming up with a number of economists. We've got a partnership with HEC High Lab. It's a university, private university here in Paris, and another one with an economic consultancy called Oxera, basically in Brussels and London, and they have a Paris office. But basically, the whole point is to measure exactly what you said. Does it have to be manipulative and deceptive to make money? Is it less profitable if it doesn't? Or perhaps, which is what our data is showing, are you break even?
yeah,
Is it the
it
is it the
it
same?
costs you more. It costs you more to be manipulative. You just think
Exactly.
about it. Yeah.
Exactly. And what our preliminary data shows is that after 6 months, only 6 months, which can be a long time in tech, I admit, but it's not super long either. Fair patterns are actually more profitable than dark ones. So of course, it needs to be further measured and assessed. And that's, by the way, that's completely even without taking into account the potential amount of fines. It's not even
Yeah.
taking that into account. And so when you know that, for example, Amazon was, had to settle with the Federal Trade Commission for dark patterns, which had nothing to do with AI, by the way, but
It
you know,
was way before.
and it was way before. But basically, tons of dark patterns used to be enshrined in Prime. And that resulted in a $2.5 billion settlement. 2.5 billion. Okay. And what's also super interesting is that 1 billion was a fine, a proper penalty. $1.5 billion is the amount that needs to be reimbursed to US citizens that got tricked. And I think that sends a very important and interesting message. Like, you fell into the trap, of course, because there was no other way.
Yeah.
Um, Not only, it's not your fault, don't feel bad, but get your money back.
Yeah. I mean, whatever works. Listen, I'm only happy to talk to Amazon and everyone else just to kind of, explain to them that there can be some good in this world that also brings you money. There's always a way out. See, that was we managed not to, spiral into depression. Depression.
Exactly. Can I just finish with a quote from from an OECD report back in 2022? They said something very, very interesting in this report on commercial dark patterns. They were analyzing the harms caused by dark patterns, and they were differentiating between individual harms and societal harms. So obviously, there are plenty of individual harms. We've briefly touched upon it, but agency, harms to privacy, financial harms, even health harms. Right, that's the individual level. What's even more interesting is at societal level, they explain two things. One, obviously, dark patterns are lessening competition. Why? Well, simply because, normally companies have to compete by the merits, meaning, building better products, better services, more innovation, cheaper prices. But if instead of that, they're manipulating and deceiving consumers and customers, well, they no longer have to compete by the merits.
There's no incentive. Yeah.
They can just compete through the efficiency of their manipulation and deception. So there's obviously a competition law angle here. Sorry for being a law nerd. Secondly, and that was the point I was getting to, they said that market economy is supposed to be the best model or the least bad, I don't know, because it's supposed to produce the best benefits for consumers, meaning lower prices, better products. But that's only if a number of conditions are met: no barriers to entry or low barriers to entry, etc., and transparency. Why
Yeah.
transparency? Because if there's no transparency, people can't compare, and therefore they can't switch. And switching, from one competitor to the other is at the core of the whole dynamics, right? So long story short, this is all to say that if we let manipulation and deception corrupt our economic system, whether it's in GenAI or just in the digital environment, we could be putting at stake the mere model of market economy as creating the best benefits for people. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And that's not depressing at all, again.
So, time to do something about it.
On that note,
On that note,
yeah, let's go and do something about it. Yeah. And everyone watching and listening, just that's your homework for the day. Just go and do something about it. Just
exactly. And
get
tell
your
us about
agency
it.
back.
And
Yeah,
reach out to us and tell the story.
absolutely. I'm motivated. I'm very motivated right now. I'm gonna do something today. Thank you so much, Mary. I don't know about you, but I had fun.
I had a lot of fun
It
as well.
was Yeah, I learned a lot, and thank you so much once again. I'll post a link to this video later today and to the study that you sent me as well for just everyone to, in case you are interested in reading. It's a very good study. And if there's anything else, you can reach Mary on LinkedIn and I as well. And until next time, goodbye, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Elena. Thank you.